Kokle Education Society's CC Committee welcomes online teaching. Presentation by Trupti Jadhav, Department of English. Welcome, dear students of Standard 11th. Today we are going to study Section 2, 2.1 Cherry Tree, written by Ruskin Bond. This is a beautiful story of the bond between a cherry tree and a boy Ruskin, who plants a cherry seed and watches as the sapling grows through natural and unnatural disasters and was finally awarded with a cherry blossom after 8 years. Now let's see about the poet. The poet Ruskin Bond is an Indian author of British descent. A British citizen by descent is a person born outside UK and is acquired if one or both parents are British citizens. Ruskin Bond was born to British parents Edith Clare and Aubrey Bond in a military hospital in Kasoli. He lives with his adopted family in Landore, Mussoorie, Uttarakhand, India. The Indian Council for Children Education has recognized his growth of children's literature in India. He was born on 19th May 1934 in Kasoli, Himachal Pradesh, India. At present, he is 86 years old. He took his education from Bishop Cotton School, Shimla, in the year 1950. His occupation: he is an author and a poet by occupation. Nationality: he is an Indian. His period is 1951 to present. His notable works are "Our Tree Still Grow in Dehra," "A Flight of Pigeons," "The Blue Umbrella," etc. His movies are BBC TV series The Room on the Roof, Junoon, Blue Umbrella, Parchai, etc. He has won many awards like Sahitya Akademi Award, John Levin Rhines Prize, Padma Bhushan, Padma Shri in Literature and Education. He received Padma Shri in 1999, Sahitya Akademi Award. See the childhood pictures of Ruskin Bond with his sister. Introduction of the poem. This poem is by Ruskin Bond. He is widely loved writer of poems and stories. Cherry Tree is a poem of struggle against adverse conditions. It inspires one to fight against even those who deliberately try to destroy one's effort to achieve one's dream. The struggle, though no long, in the end will bear fruit and bring great joy. Let's discuss about the summary. Cherry Tree makes the reader wonder why a tree is important enough for a poet to write about it. The poem Cherry Tree is about the ecstasy of the poet over the plant which he has seeded 8 years ago. It was a seed of cherry tree which took 8 years to grow. In this poem, Ruskin Bond expresses his wonder at the nature works hard to survive in difficult conditions against all odds. 8 years ago, the poet planted a cherry seed because he wanted to have a plant of his own. The young poet used to water it daily, but he was unaware of the facts that cherry plant needs extra special care to grow into a healthy tree. Now let's see the poem. Cherry Tree. 8 years have passed since I placed my cherry seed in the grass. Must have a tree of my own, I said, and watered it once and went to bed. And forgot. But cherries have a way of growing, though no one's caring very much or knowing. And suddenly, that summer, near the end of May, I found a tree had come to stay. It was a very small 5 month child, lost in the tall grass, running wild. Goats ate the leaves. The grass cutter shit split apart, and a monsoon blight shriveled the slender stem. Even so, next spring I watched three new shoots grow. The young tree struggled upward thrust, its arm in a fresh fear lust. For light and air and sun I could only wait as one, who watched wondering, while time and the rain made a miracle from green growing pain. I went away next year, spent a season in Kashmir, came back thinner, rather poor, but richer by a cherry tree at my door. 6 feet high, my own dark cherry, and I could scarcely believe it a berry, ripened and jeweled in the sun, hung from a branch, just one. And next year there were blossoms small, pink, fragile, quick to fall. At the merest breath, the sleepiest breeze, I lay on the grass at ease, looking up through leaves at the blue, blind sky, at the finches as they flew, and flitted through the dappled green, while bees in an ecstasy drank of nectar from each bloom, and the sun sank swiftly, and the stars turned in the sky, and moon moths and singing crickets, and I, yes, I praised night and stars and tree, that small, the cherry tree grown by me. Meanings of the difficult words are given over there. Children, please go through the difficult word, and if possible, please write down the words three times in your books. I'll give you the explanation of the lines now. The story of Cherry Tree by Bond revolves around the concept of duty, responsibility, perseverance, and pride. It has narration in third place. The poem begins with the poet recalling that 8 years ago he had placed a cherry seed in the grass or in the ground, and he wanted to have his own cherry tree, the desire to have his own cherry plant. He had watered the ground where he placed the seeds in the beginning, and later on he forgot to water the plant. The cherry tree or any other tree, in spite of carelessness, they have the nature to sustain or survive. At the end of summer, near the end of May, the poet noticed a small cherry plant where he had placed the seed, growing among the wild grass. Nobody knew about the plant, nor anybody cared for it. But it was a tiny 5 month old sapling. Plant is compared to 5 month old child. The line upward arms bring to mind a child holding up its arm to be carried by someone who loves him. The plant seems to be child who wants to be loved. The cherry tree was lost in the wild grass. It was not noticeable due to wild grass. Goats grazing there ate its leaves, and the grass cutter hacked it with the sharp cutting blade that is called a shit. And in the monsoon, a disease withered the little cherry sapling. Yet, yet, the next spring, the poet saw the plant was not only alive but had new shoots growing. The plant was pushing or growing towards the sunlight and air, struggling somehow to stay alive, as the child wants to go to the mother in the same way the plant wants to go to its parents, that is, the sunlight and the air. Now, as the poet knew the plant is alive, he became impatient to see it grow further. But he could only wait, as the young sapling has his own way of growing. It took its own time to grow. Through the seasons, he found it quite miraculous. Next year, due to some reason, the poet has to go to Kashmir and returned after some time and had gone. He came back thinner and poor, not having much money, but he was thrilled to see the cherry sapling was now a 6 feet tall tree and gave him joy and sense of achievement. He felt very proud of the cherry tree and he couldn't believe that there was actually a ripe red cherry hanging from the branch. The fruit was shining in the sunlight. All the cherries were hung from a branch. This reflects unity. The poet speaks of the single cherry he saw and compares it to a jewel. A cherry is red, and the fruit reminded him of ruby. The next year, the tree bore delicate pink cherry blossoms. The beautiful flowers were so dainty, delicate that they would fall as the smallest breath of air or blow of air. The poet is lying on the grass under the tree, looking up at the evening sky, showing between the branches and leaves overhead. The poet describes the blue sky visible through the leaves above. He watched the birds, the finches. Finches are the short birds with a short beak, were dating about, and bees were hovering over the sweet flowers as the sun sets. Stars appeared, and there was the noise of the crickets. Moon moths flew about. The nature was at its happiest moment. Everybody was enjoying. Only you should have the time to watch the miracle in the nature. And the poet was very much pleased, and his heart sang with joy, thinking of his cherry tree, which was planted by him, and it is so useful to everybody. So he was proud that he owned the cherry tree which was planted by him. In the end of the poem, the poet expresses his praise for the cherry tree. He is very happy and does not repent planting the seed. The story clearly emphasizes the importance of qualities in human life like love, affection, relationship, persistence, and patience, and also about the importance to preserve nature for the future generations. Now let's study the figures of speech. We'll study the alliteration first. Alliteration is the occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning or adjacent or closely connected words. That is repetition of the sound. The grass cutter should split it apart. Shrivel the slender stem. Repetition of word S, alphabet S. Only wait as one. Who watched wondering while time. Repetition of W sound. At the blue blind sky. Repetition of B. The flinches as they flew and flitted. Sound F is repeated again. Swiftly and the stars. Repetition of sound S. Now let's go to another figure of speech, that is antithesis. Antithesis literally means opposites. It is a device in which two opposite ideas are put together in a sense to achieve a contrast effect. It was very small, 5 months child, lost in the tall grass. Two opposite ideas, small and tall, are put together for effect. Rather poor but richer. Two opposite ideas, poor and rich, are put together here. Now, the third example is personification. Personification is a figure of speech where human qualities are given to non human objects. A very small 5 month child, upward thrust. Here, the plant sapling is represented as a human child holding its arm up to be lifted. Means the plant is sapling is compared to the human child. Blue blind sky. Bees is an ecstasy drank. Singing crickets. Here, non element things and insects are given human qualities of blindness, ecstasy, and singing. Now, fourth, that is climax. The figure of speech climax is used here as the words are arranged in increasing order of importance. That is the ascending order of importance. Pink, fragile, quick to fall. The point was to emphasize how delicate the flowers are. The color pink is light, conveying a feeling about blossom being dainty. The next word is fragile, actually describing the flower itself as delicate, weak, or flimsy. Quick to fall speaks of how easily it can break off the branch. So the impression frailness is built up from the first description to the last. That is in the ascending order. So please go through the figures of speech also and try to solve them. I hope so. You must have enjoyed the lecture. Now we'll meet in the other lecture, that is appreciation of the poem. Thank you very much.